A bright African good afternoon to all of you out there. Welcome to episode 10 of the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass. My name is Beatrice Achaleke. As usual, I am your host. I am the serial author of the Africa for Smart Kids book series and publisher of GloBUNTU books. At GloBUNTU books, we pride ourselves with collecting, documenting, and sharing African stories that will make you proud of your African identity, that will make you see Africa from a different perspective. And the School of Life Masterclass is a class where we bring together hand-picked master teachers who have journeyed through life, who have learned lessons, who have fallen down, stood up, who have created tools and systems that have allowed them to carry on with life. And they're here in the School of Life Masterclass to teach you some of those lessons, to give it all to you. And you are invited to join the class because our classes are always open classes. We stream on Facebook and YouTube. And if you're here for the first time, we say welcome to our masterclass. You are in the School of Life Masterclass. If you are someone who is coming for another time, we say welcome home. This is the place to be on Saturday afternoons when it comes to getting really beautiful nuggets of African wisdom. So our master teacher for today is Dr. Vus Dube, and I am going to invite him to come into the master class. This is our master teacher, and this man is just amazing. He wears so many caps, and he has so many full-time jobs that listening to him, I have the feeling that he has about 10 clones around him, 10 different versions of him. Good afternoon, Bishop. Welcome to the master class.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. I'm happy to be part of the GloBUNTU Masterclass. I'm very grateful, knowing that I'm reaching the far parts of Africa today. I'm here in South Africa, but I know that I'm able to get throughout Africa and throughout the world. I want to take this opportunity and thank you very much for inviting me to be one of the people who are going to make contribution in other people's lives. And I know the more I speak is the more I'll be learning more from me.
That's very true. The School of Life Masterclass is the place where we teach and learn at the same time. You know, Dr. Maya Angelou said, when you learn, teach. So it is our responsibility to teach whatever we've learned. We don't wait until we are perfect. Just because we know that life is a story and some stories are life transforming. And so we tell those stories while we transform our other people's life. We learn as we tell the story. So that is the essence of this masterclass. And today is our 10th episode. So we are celebrating a milestone episode, 10 master classes since we started, and we're still up and going. So thank you for being the master teacher for the 10th master class.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's go out and tell the story. Bishop Dube, will you kindly introduce yourself to our masterclass attendants? Who is Bishop Dube? What defines him and what does he stand for? Over to you.
Thank you very much once more, Beatrice. Who is Bishop Vus Dube? I always introduce myself not as Bishop because that one is a title that has been given to me because of the responsibility that I took of overseeing a church and some other pastors who are serving under our ministry. But in short, I was born many years ago in the outskirts of Pietermaritzburg in South Africa. It's one of the very deeply rural areas where I was born. In my young age, I experienced a certain turnaround when my mother died in a bus accident because she had gone to town to buy some stuff for me. When she came back, she never looked that she was not careful in crossing the street, and she died in that way. So it allowed me to be mothered for some years by my grandmother. I normally tell people that I was given birth by my grandmother because I never experienced much of my mother. And then growing up in that place called Empolweni, it's a very Bundu area. It's a very Mafamo area, if I can put it that way. It's a very deep rural area. When I grew up in that place, there was no electricity, there was no running water, so life was just a jungle, which will cause you to be able to try to live in that type of a situation. But obviously, if you are not exposed to electricity and running water, you are okay, you are satisfied with what you have. So I grew up at Polweni, then I started my education over there, and quickly I moved to a township, which is not very far from there, because my stepmother, who came into my life when I was about 7 or 8 years old, then decided to take me to a formal school in the township. That is where I grew up, in the township now. So immediately when I grew up, from the young age to the age of 6, I'm growing up in the rural area. Then I had to move quickly to be exposed to a township life, to sort of a city life, and that is where my life then began to change, to be exposed to a life in the city. I was grown up there in the township of GloBUNTU until then I finished my later grades. I went to a high school, and then at that time I was exposed to a boarding school. My mother and my father at that time, my stepmother, decided to take me to a boarding school. There was a reason for that. In the township where I was growing, in the early 80s, there was a lot of violence because there were a lot of strikes that were taking place, because we're in a township of people who are politically inclined. So the political life started to inject into my system, to look at things with an understanding that there is a better life, because we live in the township, yet we are in the city. I grew up from there. My most desire when I grew up, I wanted to be a journalist. Unfortunately, I couldn't become one. I wanted to be a lawyer. I couldn't become one. I ended up being trained as a teacher. So I am a trained teacher who is a full-time politician.
A trained teacher, full-time politician, full-time bishop, full-time head of the family, full-time club, athletic club owner.
Yes.
Where do we put you? Where do we take you out? So I just want to remind our people who are joining the masterclass that you are in the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass episode 10. Our master teacher today is Bishop Vus Dube, and we are talking about life-changing moments, that those moments that define your life that you can't even change. You can join the masterclass by using the comment box from Facebook and from YouTube. Join the class, give us where you are right now, tell us how you're going through the pandemic, tell us what is going on in your life, tell us what you're learning from this masterclass, and if you're here for the first time, I just want to remind you that the masterclass comes to you in 4 chapters, that we are in the first chapter where we do the introduction. Second chapter, we're going through lessons learned by our master teacher. Chapter 3, we're looking at where his next chapter in life is and where people can find him, where you can find him. And in chapter 4, we are wrapping it all up in a nutshell and just having fun while we learn. Okay, that said, let's go back to our master teacher. So, Bishop.
Yes, Petrus.
How have you been experiencing the pandemic? And when I ask the question, I'm looking for the positive thing. What is that thing that you've learned about you during the pandemic that you did not know before?
Well, there's a lot of things that I've learned. Practically, it gave me an opportunity to remain at home with my family, with my daughters, to spend time. We spent almost the whole year together. I've never spent time with them when they are matured. I've spent time with them when they were going to small grades. Now they're university students. During pandemic, it took our life into a turn where I had to stay at home for the whole year doing nothing. And it gave me time to look at my life as an individual, the experiences that I've been through. But it has taught me that life is a very unique thing. It's something that we need to value, during the pandemic, I know that we have lost a lot of people, especially that are very close in terms of ministries, other ministers who have passed away. But it has taught me to appreciate life as never before and understand that each day that I live is sort of a new day, and I must live that day into the fullest. It taught me so much that life itself is like a puzzle. I look at life as a puzzle. I say, Lord, I thank you that if I'm still waking up, it means that there's somewhere that I need to fit. There's something that I still need to do in my life. I'm very grateful that it has, as a pastor, I never imagined that I will minister to the church without contact with them. I've learned to be, seriously, my kids and my daughters in particular have taught me how to link with the people, to be active in Facebook, and link with the whole church without going to church. The fourth industrial revolution, it came, it was pushed into my throat. And today I can do a little bit more with the lessons that have been given to me.
I love that, because I think that one of the things that the pandemic has done is that it has taken us out of our comfort zone and exposed us to situations where we have learned to stretch and train those resilience muscles and learn something new. And I think that's one of the positive things about it, amidst all the, the negativity. But now, before we continue the conversation, I want to take us into the core of the masterclass. What is that defining moment in your life? What was that moment? I know there's so many of them, but that one particular one that pops up in your mind right now that changed the course of life forever.
Well, I think knowing, because I did not know that I'm an orphan. I did not know that I did not have, a parent. That's life. Because when these things happen when you are still young, they are covered in a way. God protects you. But when my father died, passed on, I was about to finish my high school. And that is where I was set down. I got to know that your mother died when you were still young, and now your father has died. It changed my mind, and it made me understand what does it mean to survive, to live without those things that you depend on for support. Because knowing that I have parents, it will cause me to know that anything that I want, I will get. I now began to think, without my father, without my mother, how am I going to live? But, in my mind, I made a decision. There are things that I'm going to do in life, and there are things that I'm not going to do. I learned to glide or to walk in life too quickly, especially because when my father died, I was then introduced to a boarding school. I had to live in a boarding school. Fortunately, I had to take responsibility of myself, and I find myself, even at that time, being made the head of a high school, like a head boy. I'm losing my parent this side, but someone is see that I'm a leader this side. And that is where I embark on the route of being a leader. That is where I learn to lead other students with some disadvantages in my life, especially of not having a parent. But I'm given a responsibility of being a leader in the high school. And then that is where I started to think like a leader. Though I did not know that I was thinking like a leader, I began to do things like a leader. I began to perform like a leader. So life sort of turned me into a leader, where I have to begin to understand that in life there is something called taking responsibility of your life. There are things that we are exposed to in boarding school that I realized after some time that I needed not to do them because I was a leader, not just because I was Vus Dube. It's because I believe that God was pruning me to become a leader that I am today. I've learned in life that, number one, you don't give up. I've learned that at a very early stage, you don't give up. When whatever happens to you, wherever you are exposed to a situation that says no to you, you must make sure you push to the point where life must begin to say yes to you, where things must begin to say yes, we agree. So I've learned that at a very young age.
I love that. I love that when you're pushed to the wall, the only option you have is to push back. You can't. The wall is hard. And when you're bounced down, the only thing that you have to do is bounce back up. And I think that's one of the laws of life. And people who have gone through all those challenges, you come back stronger. You come forward stronger.
Definitely.
And more and wiser. And you have more compassion. You have more compassion. And boarding school life, I'm a product of 7 years of Catholic boarding school. So I know what you're talking about. I know some of the things that you go through in boarding schools, what you're exposed to, which is not supposed to leave the four walls of your dormitory. Some of those kind of treatments, they form you for life.
Oh, definitely. One thing that it teaches you also, what it taught me is that I'm a unique person. I have to understand that I'm not like any other person. I am unique. I've been exposed to people who come from rich homes, when I was there. And I had to understand that I am unique. But at the same time, I learned that there are things that will not happen, that will not happen without me being involved in one way or the other. I will try to push, to the point that I project myself, I become visible. There was a time where there were strikes in my school. That is where I had to take leadership. Nobody told me to begin to tell the students what to do when there is a situation of a strike. I learned at that time that I have to give commands and instructions on what has to be done. I've learned that as a politician that I am now, that life will teach you to be a politician. Because when you're a politician, when you are at school, you go beyond the books. You come to a point where you know that you are at school to study, but you begin to look at the life around studying, the things that makes it possible and easy for you to study. You begin to see that other people are not retarded from succeeding because they are stupid. You learn that there are conditions that will cause somebody not to be able to move on with life. I remember that when I was at school, there were some people who were pulled out of school because they were not financially viable to move on with life. But also, I've learned that when we were still there, there are some students who fell pregnant and they were written out of the system. I was nearly written out of the system because I involved myself in politics of the time. I found myself being taken to prison, to isolation, because I began to understand politics at that time when I was doing grade 9. In fact, I was even arrested at that time because of being a leader amongst the students. So those are some of the lessons that I've learned during my high school time when I was still a student. I was also a little prisoner at that time. Life has been very challenging, and you only know it again when you sit down now and look at the journey that you have traveled and realize that, wow, it has not been easy, but nevertheless, you are where you are today and you still have to push forward.
And you're where you are because of the things that you've gone through, the lessons that you've learned along the way, and the experiences that you have acquired. And talking about being at school, I think that's something that we have in common again. When I went to the University of Yaoundé and got involved in the students' movement, that was the very first students' movement that was allowed in the then beginning democratic Cameroon. And before we noticed, we were all kicked out of the university and banned from studying in any high schools in Cameroon.
I know that. I know that.
This is a story that you hear from a certain generation of people on the continent, that was a time when liberation, fighting for liberation, fighting for freedom, fighting for right was still very much at the top of the agenda, in spite of the so-called independence. But we're not going to the political chapter today. I would like us to take a quick break, a very quick break, because this is the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass. We're talking about life lessons. We're talking about defining moments in life. And the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass is an open class. You can join us, ask questions, share your experiences, share your expertise, share, whatever, comment, get in contact with our master teacher. And again, we love telling stories because life is a story. Some stories are life
is a story.
Some of the stories, some are written in books, and I'm going to take you to the GloBUNTU. We're not going there. We're coming back into the class. This is the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass episode 10. Our master teacher today is Bishop Vus Dube, and we're talking about life-changing moments. If you're just joining us now, we have just shared that defining moment in his life, which was the moment when he realized that he's actually grown up without his real biological mom, and the moment when his dad passed and he was about to go to college, and getting into college in a boarding school, being given the responsibility of becoming a prefect at the same time when he was experiencing those losses in his life and still being able to excel in spite of all those challenges. So that's what we have touched on. And we're now in chapter 2 of the masterclass, where we're talking about the nuggets, the lessons learned. Bishop Dube, let's talk about your 5 most important lessons learned since you've been journeying through life and doing all the things that you do. What are the 5 key lessons that you've learned so far?
Well, number one, I've learned that it touches on you. I've learned the principle of Ubuntu. We say in Africa, in South Africa, in Zulu, Umuntu, Ubuntu, Umuntu Ngabantu. I've learned that because my grandmother had groomed me. You learn that from the elderly people. I've learned that you must finish anything that you start. You must make sure that you finish, because every time you start something, there will be a force that will be against what you are trying to do. I've learned, number 3, that in life there is something called failing, but failing is not failure per se. I've learned that you cannot be able to climb all the time. As I've alluded, that I've learned that life is like a snake and ladder game, where you move up in life, but with the ladder, and the snake will take you down. I've learned that when
let's
you
stop
are
right there. Let's stop right there and reflect on the 3 key, the 2 lessons. The one is Ubuntu. The one is Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is this African philosophy. It's a concept that we grow up in that. In South Africa, you call it Ubuntu. In other parts of Africa, there are different names. Sometimes we call it African palaver. It's that philosophy. What does it represent to you? What did you learn from your grandmother that is the core, the essence of Ubuntu?
Well, I think it has stopped me from. It has stopped me. One of the things from the life of crime. It makes me to value another person in my life. When we grew up with my grandmother, we used to be so many at home that I did not even know who belongs to my home, who does not belong to my home, because she was more like a Mother Teresa, bringing together the children of my aunties and my other fathers and the neighbors' children, cooking in a big pot and sharing food with all these children that you do not know. So it makes me to understand. That is why later in life, I started something like a feeding scheme where I would cook food and then allow people to come and eat. People who are living in the streets of Durban. I used to, when I was a Bible school student, I used to cook food and then they will come and eat. And I learned that this is something that was embedded to me from a long time ago when I was growing, that I must not see any other person becoming hungry around me. So I would cook a big pot of food and soup, and then people will stream in, 400, 500 people. I will feed them almost every day. And to me, I will be very satisfied, because when you do something called Ubuntu, anything, it makes you to be satisfied when you have done what you are supposed to do. And we are not expecting anything to come back to you, to be thanked for that. Ubuntu is something that you do, not expecting anything in return to be done for you.
When I listened to you 2 weeks ago, I was our master teacher was from Zambia, our sister Mbao. Mbao was talking about the same thing, like the whole village coming home, you sharing everything with everyone in the village. And it's the same experience that I had in Cameroon, the same experience. We're talking about Southern Africa, and we're talking about Central Africa and Western Africa. And I think people from Eastern Africa will tell you the same story. And this tells us how, that we're one people. We're just divided by, those lines. We have the same experience. We have the same culture. We have the same values. My grandmother adopted the whole village. And she told me, don't you dare think that you are privileged because you are biological. There's nothing about biological here. A child is a child.
You share the same thing. Everything you share. You get enough portions. They are equal. Portions are equal.
That's right.
And we used to sit around the fire, and my grandmother will give us, each and every one of us, meal. Maize, I'm sorry. And they will give us corn and say, and teach us how to braai that one, and guide us on how to braai it. If somebody is not able to, you will say, Msize, help the other one. You learn that you are not on the island. You also learn that you are not on your own in life. But at the same time, you cannot just run and leave other people, which is a lesson that I learned when I did my first race of Comrades Marathon. I learned that that race is not about you coming in a certain position. It's about you finishing. And it's not about you running all the way. It's about you making sure that you reserve and preserve yourself to the end. It's not about you having to go past others. In fact, you learn that when you pass others, you learn to check them. Are you okay? They say, no, I'm not. You hold them by your hand. You don't look at the watch and say, my time will expire. You say, let me have this brother, this sister, so that we'll all finish together. That's something that I've learned even in the process of road running. It is a big lesson for me. You can't just leave an injured person, because the purpose of this person was to finish anyway. And you don't know what is going in her mind. You all want to finish. So instead of saying, I must hurry and pass, you say, no, we have to do this thing together. You dare not fail. We must move forward. We must finish this thing that we have started.
And I think that is something that is so powerful in our culture, in the African culture. Sometimes I know we are deriving a little bit, but we are in this Ubuntu, and I just want to expand it a little bit. When I watch some of the competitions that are on TV these days, you realize that people are put into teams. You are coached, and then you're put to fight against each other. You combat. It's really called combat. When you see, some shows like The Voice or whatever, they say combat. So you have to knock out someone that you have practiced and rehearsed with. You knock them out, and you want to stand out, and then you want everyone to rally around you again to celebrate. And I'm saying this is not an African culture. This is
no. we are not the rabbi people. We are the people of the marathon. We are the people who are holding a baton. That the baton that you are holding is not your baton. You need to hold it, set it on somebody's hand, and begin to cheer them as they move with the same baton that you are carrying. It's not your baton. And that baton must be taken to the end. You dare not think it's your own baton. So it's always good to know that even life is about investing your life into other people. You know, when we live, you know that you become an investment. When you live, you must make sure that you always do things that will be remembered, not because you must get an award, because it's not everybody who's going to get a Nobel Peace Award, but everything that you do, when you are satisfied that you have helped the other person, it's a big reward in your life. And I think we as African must look at life like that we need to pull each other. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. says, you can only look down to another person when you are lifting them up. But besides that, there is no way that you are going to look at another person and look them down. When you're looking them down, it's only when you try to check where they are, and then you lift them up of the hole where they are, or in the well where they've fallen. So I think it's one of those things that I've equally learned in my life. Very important. You cannot do it alone.
Get you. So that was so much to Ubuntu. There's so much that we can talk about that philosophy. But your second lesson was finish what you start. Finish what you start. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. It doesn't matter how painful it is. It doesn't matter how long you have to work. Finish what you start. And I think there's some wisdom in that.
We finish what you start. You can also, you know, the school is good. I mean the formal school, because it tells you that you start from grade A, you must finish at grade 12. That is very good. But the life teaches us that even if you take one grade, you have to repeat it for 3 times. You don't give up. You still say, I am moving to 12. So life teaches us never to give up. You don't give up even when you sometimes when I tell people when they are sick, I ask them, do you still have something to live for? They say, yes, I still. Then I said, for that reason, you are not going to give up. You are going to make sure that you look at this, what is happening to you, as just an incident that is happening. There are many things that you have. You know, the mind is a very great weapon that will take you to the end. Because if you say in your mind, like as I say again, in my lesson of Comrades Marathon, I told myself, Vus Dube, you are not stopping at 70 kilometers. You have to stop at 89, at 90 kilometers. And then the body wants to give up. When the body wants to give up, the mind must take over. And that's a basic lesson in life, that when your body, that is why I admire somebody who is prepared to say, well, because I cannot walk, let me use a wheelchair. You know, there's somebody who's going to say, well, because I cannot walk, let me just sleep on my bed. But somebody would say, I cannot walk anymore, but I can do something. Bring a wheelchair. I must learn now to use a wheelchair, or I must learn to use crouches. But stopping, I'm not going to stop. Equally so, like Martin Luther King Jr. says, you have to run. If you cannot run, you have to walk. If you cannot walk, you have to crawl. But what is important, you are not going to stop anywhere. I've learned that in life, you cannot stop now until you finish. When God says it's over, then your life will be over. Not to be told by other people, you know, so that you accept that, oh, I failed. I've been told many times that I won't make it, you know, at school. Because there are classes that I had to repeat, because a particular one class that I repeated, not because I was not clever, because the conditions were not conducive for me to go on. Some people had to finish at a certain point where some conditions of life were saying no. And then that is where I've learned in life, you cannot stop. You cannot stop today. You cannot stop tomorrow, because there is still something called future for you to get to. And somebody must have in his mind, their mind, my future is over there. I've learned that through the process of my life.
Someone says winners never quit and quitters never win. And Mandela said a winner is a dreamer who never stops dreaming. Right?
Wow.
So
Wow.
let's go and pick your 3 last lessons learned. I think we can have this conversation for the rest of the week, but we're going to keep to the framework of the masterclass. Let's pick your 3 other lessons learned, your 3 life lessons learned.
Legacy. I've learned that when you live, you must have a legacy. You must have a milestone. You must have something that you are going to be remembered for. You have to understand that what you do is not only for you, is for generations to come. So that is why you begin to build a legacy. And many people obviously think that if you think you are going to build a legacy because you have a lot of money, you may not be successful in life. If you think you are going to begin to build a legacy because you have finished your education, that thing may not take you very far. I've learned in life that a legacy is built at a certain time, where you realize that you must begin to build something. Let me give an example of, because now we and my wife started a church, and we decided to start a church because both of us had been groomed in church, because there was a situation that was saying to us, we must start a church. And when we started this church, we did not start it for ourselves, neither for our children. We said, let us start something that is going to nurture, to build the next generation to come, that is going to empower not us but other people. So our theme in church is empowerment. When we get there, you must be fully empowered. And we took our time to say, build a legacy. Beatrice, when you are writing a book, any book, you may not understand that you are building a legacy where somebody will remember that these are the footprints of Beatrice. And then it helps each and every person to be disciplined, to know that what I'm building here is an altar where other people will begin to learn things out of me. In essence, I've learned that you are a lesson yourself. That is why the Bible says you are the salt of the world, because you must be tasteful out there. Whatever you do, you must know that it's going to count on you in years to come. We grew up in the township. You know, one of the things that we grew up in the township, people were carrying knives in the township to protect themselves. But you know, I've never been in a situation of carrying a knife, because when I got into school, I was discovered that I had a knife, and my teacher said to me, gave me a punishment, and every time I come to class, because it was discovered in class that I'm carrying a knife called okapi, and then every morning when I come into the class, my teacher said, take the okapi, stand in front of the class, and tell them that I am going to step you. I am going to step you. I'm going to step you. And he was saying to me, you are doing this to show in life that you are going to be stepping people. I did that for 3 days, every day. That was my punishment, until I realized that I must quit school. I tried to run away, but I was brought back. It's a story for another day. But I did learn, out of that, the value of not doing other things. I said I must build my legacy. Wherever I am, there must be safety. There must be love. There must be protection. If people will ever remember me in life when I'm gone, I want them to remember a person who has inculcated love into other people.
You're jumping to chapter 4 of our masterclass. Let's stay in chapter. I love that. I love that. And I'll quote Mandela again, who said, I'm glad that you talk about legacy. It's so important. That's why we do what we do at GloBUNTU Books. Mandela said, over the generations and upon centuries, people come and go. Some people leave nothing behind, not even their names. How tragic is that? Not even their names. So people, your great-grandchildren will start inventing your life, and you've forgotten, but you've been here and you left nothing. So I'm so glad that you mentioned the legacy thing. Let's hear the last two life lessons that you've learned, and let's keep them short so we can move to the next chapter.
Okay, is that one that I've mentioned before? Not without you. There are things that will never happen in life without you. You are a contributor. You are a contributor in somebody's life. You need to contribute something. The minute you become full, you must pour yourself into others. The minute you become full, you must pour yourself into others. I think that is what has driven me in being a teacher. Because when you are a teacher, you study so much, you read so much, not for yourself. You want to pour it to your students. And what makes you happy is to see the outcome from the people that you have taught, the things that you have taught to other people. We must learn that we are not of ourselves, but we have to make sure that we need to accumulate things, not for ourselves, but for other people out there. I think my mind is people orientated. I don't want to do things that will be, just for me. I feel like if my neighbor, especially because I'm a pastor, I feel like if people are empowered, everybody has a portion of something, and then we are going to say we are successful. I don't want to say somebody saying I am successful. I want to say somebody saying we are successful because we have shared our lives with one another. So I believe that there are things that will never be completed without you. So I say in life, not without me. I try to see where I can be able to help. Whenever, the way I fought physically criminality, there was one time I'm driving in town and I saw a car in front of me. I could see that these guys have knives and they are attacking a lady who's driving a car in front of me. Without even thinking twice, I came out of my car, to try to assist them. Fortunately, they flee away. But I realized how these things happen every day, and people are dying in the robots, being stabbed by people. When you are behind them, you can be able to do something. I realized that crime cannot happen in the vicinity where I am. I do not talk about bringing peacefulness amongst the people. I believe that I can contribute something to make sure that there is peace where I am. I've learned to become a crime fighter because I say, not with me, not without me. I cannot allow these negative things to happen in my presence. I need to contribute something to make sure that somebody comes out positive, strong, and happy. The practical thing is that I'm too involved in making sure that there is no danger around the people that we live with my neighbors, in the church where I am, even in the work where I am. Some people will say, yeah, that's why you became a pastor, because you have this thing in your heart and in your mind. Not without me.
Okay, I love that. So let's just put it out there. Those who are watching us, we see you, we acknowledge you. What is your contribution? What do you think you can contribute? What have you contributed? What are you contributing? What are you intending to contribute? What are the things that someone else has poured into your life that has made you who you are today? And who do you depend on? Who do you look up to? What does that make? How does that make you feel? Especially during this time of the pandemic, where we're also vulnerable. We're also powerless. We're also clueless. We're also insecure. So but at the end of the day, when you wake up in the morning, I always say you got more than someone else. You got more than someone else. So be happy to be here and make a contribution. So I love that. I would like for us to close that chapter and then close the chapter and move on to our next chapter, which is talking about your next chapter. What is next on your agenda? Of all the caps that you wear, of all the positions that you have, what is next on your agenda and where can people find you? Let's put that in a nutshell.
Well, at the moment, seeing that I've been leading people, I've failed in life, I've tried, so many things. I've decided that things will never be completed without me putting it down on the paper. Obviously, in passing, I've been a full-time pastor for quite some time. I've been a school principal, for quite some time. I serve in the Parliament of KwaZulu-Natal as a member of the legislature. I decided to, when I turned 50, to say, look, I want to do something that people always do in our province, in South Africa, in the whole world. They run this race, which is called Comrades Marathon. Then I began to train for about 2 years. Something that I've never done before, to run more than 10 kilometers. I decided, no, I'm going to run this race. I started by 5 kilometers. I did 10. I did a race of 21. I did 42. I did 56. I did 2 oceans. I ended up doing Comrades Marathon, which gave me satisfaction that, you know what, when all is said and done, I decided, let me write a book. Because I will never reach to any other people. Remember that your life, unfortunately, will definitely count more when you are gone. When I went to Ghana, I was looking for the places where Kwame Nkrumah walked. In South Africa, I had said in my life, one of the exciting moments for me was to see Dr. Nelson Mandela in real life, sitting in a rally where he was speaking. I've been able to meet almost all the presidents of South Africa. I've shared, the table with the kings and queens. I've been into many places, but I believe that my life was a chapter and a chapter and a chapter. What next now? I am writing a book. I'm writing a book with a very interesting title that says, Life, Leadership is like snakes and ladder game. Because I want people now, whether I reach to them in years to come, I want them to read not just about me.
Okay, we're having a challenge with the network. We're having a...
Am I still on? Are we still on? Yeah, I'm not sure whether Petrus can pick me up now, but I was saying, because I can see the reflection, I don't know whether there is somebody out there who can still hear me. I was saying that one of the things that I've decided to do is to begin to write books about leadership, obviously about my upbringing, about what I've done, how I've succeeded, but also in my book about how I've failed, how I've tried to pick up from my failures and moving forward with life. I'm trying to look at that, and I'm trying to put the different chapters of my life. You know, chapters as a pastor, chapters as a politician, chapters as a father, chapters as an athlete, as a person who's full-time in running, because all these things have different packages in my life that I think will help others, because my life is mostly about helping other people out there. Well, I'm trying to check if Beatrice is still on. I think she has been challenged by her line. I tried. I still. Chat. Anyway, we're about to close because we've been live for 51 minutes and we are supposed to be finishing at least at 55 minutes. And very unfortunate that I had to. Well, I'm not sure if I'm still out there, but I do want to say at the end of the day, there are some things that, as I've alluded before, that were lessons in my life. I do want to say one of the very important things for me, as I've alluded before, is never to give up, number one, and number two, make sure that in whatever you do, even if you fail, you don't turn it into an incident of calling yourself a failure. I've also learned that I am a unique person. As I've said, that the puzzle is not completed without me. And lastly, I've learned a great lesson that whatever I start in life, I need to finish. I want to appreciate the opportunity given to me. I want to appreciate my wife and my kids. I want to appreciate my family. I want to appreciate my family who have also made a very major contribution to make me whatever I am today. I know that there is more that one could share, but with a limited time. I hope when I've written the book and possibly coming after in September or so, where we are looking at the Heritage Month, I believe that the book might be finished at that time. And then people will get information, more information about a lot of things that I will share with them in terms of leadership. We are found at Teguini Community Church in the center of Durban. If you are out there and you happen to come to a great city of Durban in South Africa, you are invited to come and fellowship with us. You will be welcome. I believe that God has allowed us to link and connect with one another for a reason. I do want to say, may God richly bless you. May God strengthen you. May God make you grow. May you survive and live beyond COVID-19. May you be strong in this season and be able to strengthen other people even at this season. Well, I want to thank Beatrice for this opportunity. I want to thank everybody who was listening. Life is a lesson itself. And I want to encourage people that they become the part of GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass. I'm looking forward to listening to other people sharing the things that will make me grow, because in life, we'll never stop learning from other people. I want to thank you and say, God bless you. Thank you.
So, Bishop, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, and I continued without you. I'm sorry.
Thank you for sitting in for me. My network is troubleshooting. I was getting frustrated. it comes and goes. So I'm so happy that you sat in for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I just decided to move on, and and conclusively put forward that I'm presently working on that book. That you also encouraged me much to begin to write, because would like to. I would like to encourage people to begin to have diaries, especially the younger generation. Please begin to write down, because 56 years down the line, you may forget a lot of things that happen in your life that will count to other people. In fact, I believe that at a certain point, each and every person must design his or her own Nobel Peace Award. Do it, design it for yourself and give it to yourself and say, yay, I'm awarding my life myself. I don't know at what age. At age 50, I decided I was going to do Congress Marathon. At least I have that medal that says I finished the race. But I believe that everybody has got a medal there, because life is a race on itself. The day you pass on, you'll have a lot of accolades, but it will be something that you know about yourself, that you can put down for others to read about you. But I do want to thank you very much. Come again, Beatrice?
We're not yet done. We're still going to go to the next chapter, in spite of the interruption. Thank you so much for for adding so much value to this masterclass. And I think the lessons that you're saying at GloBUNTU Books, we run masterclasses for first-time writers. We have groomed since April 2016, 15 young authors. The youngest was 7 when she wrote her book. So that's what we do at GloBUNTU Books. Make sure that you start writing a lifelong legacy at a very tender age. And I know that when you groom children to start writing book at that age, they become authors, but they become content creators. They become savvy. They become curious about the environment that they live in. So you're speaking to my heart. That's exactly what we're doing here. And I'm glad that we are on the same page. So diarying is one thing, writing a book and having it published. And most of our authors are award winners. They are award winners. Some of their books have been approved for schools. You're talking to an author of 23 books. So, you're in the space of book where we do exactly that. And yes, I'm happy we're talking about that. That takes us to the chapter 4. That takes us to chapter 4, where we're going to just wrap it up. So, Bishop, complete the following sentences for me: as authentic, as compact, as joyful, as natural as possible. Okay.
Okay.
I am
a winner.
Thank you. The one childhood memory that I treasure the most is
when I wanted to quit at school.
Okay. The 3 words that define me are
never give up. That's who I am. I do not give up.
Oh, wow. I like that. If there was no COVID and no lockdown, I would have.
I would have been very fun. I would have implemented more plans in my life.
Okay, but you had time to spend with your children, and that's another plan that was not planned, but it was implemented.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
Spending time
definitely.
with family.
Definitely.
Yeah. On the day that I was ordained as bishop, the one thought that I had in my mind was, the day you were ordained as bishop, what is that one thought that you had in your mind?
Responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I had this in my mind. I'm getting into a place of a higher responsibility. And I was asking myself, will I be able?
I hear you. The one thing that I'm doing now, after turning 50, that I wish I started earlier is?
Well, running. I wish I had started it very early. I'm a
being
health
in
freak.
3 full-time jobs and juggling it.
Come again?
Okay, I hear you. Being in 3 full-time jobs and juggling it with being a husband and the head of a family is?
It's hectic. It's hectic, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
You. Okay. What makes me proud to be an African is?
I think for me, you're giving an answer.
No. What makes you proud to be an African?
Oh, it is to understand that there is value in people. It teaches to value other people, like other races. Okay. They don't care about others. Yeah. For me to be an African, it lets me to value other people.
I hear you. What most people do not know about me is that
I'm shy. I'm a very shy person.
Seriously?
I'm a very shy person.
You?
Unbelievable.
I hear you. If I had to advise, if I had a piece of advice for the 18-year-old version of me today, that would be?
Begin to plan for your next phase of life. I would be saying, Vus Dube, sit down and plan. You are 18, plan for the next phase of your life.
I hope the younger people out there are listening to that, those who are 18. The one life lesson that I learned from my grandmother that I will never forget is?
Oh, being so many. It is to love and protect.
The one thing that I always have in my refrigerator is?
Stony.
Stony. Oh. I hear you.
And my coach, my training coach, has warned me, said, don't drink this. But after running, I need a little bit of Stony.
Get you. South Africa to me is?
Well, South Africa to me is a real home. Yeah, it's a real home.
If today was my last day, I would?
If it was my last day, I will call all the people I love and celebrate with them.
Get you. In 2030, I see myself.
Oh. I see myself as I would have retired and I'll be a mentor for many other people who are coming up. I want to be a mentor.
You'll be an amazing mentor, that is for sure. If I was the president of the United States of Africa, I would?
I would reconsider our education so that it becomes African.
I get you. That's powerful. The one family tradition that I hold on to, that I will hold on to my last day is? The one family tradition that I will hold on to my last day is?
Well, it's what my wife has taught us to come together and pray.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to be remembered as an African who
brought change, who brought change and teach the young generations the importance of Ubuntu.
I hear you. That is important. So with that, we've come to the end of today's masterclass. It was the 10th session of the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass. Our master teacher is Bishop Dube. Online, I see people saying, let's acknowledge them. Keto says, I really love this. That's what he says. And Siyavuya says, we hear you, Baba. We see you too. And then Dr. Tiki Dube says, thanks, Bishop Dube, for sharing your life. It is interesting that you choose to be a leader and that your greatest joy in life is love. Inspired. And we have another comment right here from Keto. Yes, that was when I was offline, when I was thrown out of the studio. The system throws me out of my own studio. Very impolite, but that's what technology does. Puzzle is not complete. Puzzle is not complete without you. We acknowledge all of you and thank you for joining the masterclass and sharing and cheerleading our master teacher and affirming him. Bishop Dube, one final word. Let's keep it very short. One final word before we wrap it all up, please.
Well, I want to say to everybody who is there, when all is said and done, remember that you need to stand. Do not allow any situation to push you down, your failures to push you down. I say it like Apostle Paul, who says, having done it all, you must continue to stand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With that, we come to the end of today's masterclass. As you know, the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass is a growing class. It's evolving. If you are out there and you think you can be a master teacher or you know a master teacher, please inbox me and I will be happy to talk to them. We're looking for master teachers, people who have journeyed through life and who have lessons to share, people who want to mentor, people who want to use their life to impact others. This is the place to be. So we will appreciate you. We appreciate you to, we'd love to hear your story. We'd like to have you as a master teacher. That said, today's masterclass has been a little bit longer because of the technological problem that we have, for which I excuse myself. I wish all of you out there a beautiful evening, a wonderful weekend. I thank my master teacher for today for taking the time. I know he has been out all the week and he just drove home, and before he got into his home, I had to get him into the studio. So I thank him very much for accepting and for his family for availing him to be online with us today to share this class with us. Thank you so much, every one of you who is out there. Don't forget, every Saturday is the GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass, and please watch out for the next call for the GloBUNTU Trailblazer Award. We just finished the first round where we honored 48 kids and young adults for beating the pandemic. The next round is coming up, and please make sure to nominate your child, nominate your grandchild, your neighbor, when you're a teacher, whoever you are, as long as you have a brown and black child around you, please nominate them for the next round of the GloBUNTU Trailblazer Award. For that, information is on the website www.globuntubooks.com. Click on the Black Youths on Black Kids Summit and Award and nominate as soon as you can. So never forget, life is a story and some stories are life-changing. My name is Beatrice Achaleke. I was your host. This is the School of Life, GloBUNTU School of Life Masterclass. See you next Saturday in the next class. Thank you very much. Keep keeping safe and be divinely protected.